Welcome back to AI Slop, the podcast where I insult your intelligence by reading AI slop in a baritone, almost southern accent. At AI Slop, me and the soulless machine will help you sleep, focus at work, do chores, and maybe learn a bit by reading you the most mundane, calming stories that AI can generate. The backing instrumentals? AI Slop. The stories? They might be true, they might not be. We're not checking. But they're definitely AI Slop. The only humans are me, the reader, and you, the listener. I'm your host, Mark Gottschalk. Without further ado, let's get into it. Before we begin Chapter 1, let me gently ease you into tonight's story. This is a medieval story. Quiet, human, and stubbornly hopeful. It's about endurance rather than victory. About survival measured in days and nights rather than battles and banners. It takes place in a walled city, during a time when bells marked the hours, prayers marked the days, and persistence marked the people. Tonight, we're going to the year 1348, to a city that refused to give up. Chapter 1: The City and the Bell. In the middle of the 14th century, the city of Strasbourg sat along the Rhine, surrounded by stone walls and governed by routine. Every morning, a bell rang from the cathedral tower. It rang for prayer, it rang for work, it rang for meals. The bell told people when to wake, when to gather, when to stop. And for generations, it rang without interruption. But in 1348, something arrived that bells could not warn against. Illness crept into Europe along trade routes and rivers. It arrived quietly, without banners or armies. One household fell silent, then another, then a street. The bell still rang. Chapter 2: The Long Year. The sickness moved faster than understanding. People tried what they knew. They prayed, they cleaned, they fled. None of it worked particularly well. Every day, carts moved through the streets carrying the dead. Every day, the bell rang. It rang even when the bell ringer was sick. It rang even when fewer people came to hear it. Records from the time describe empty workshops, abandoned homes, and fields left unplanted. But they also describe something else. They describe neighbors bringing bread. They describe strangers digging graves. They describe people staying when it would have been safer to leave. The bell kept time not for productivity, but for continuity. Chapter 3: The Bell Ringer. The man who rang the bell was named Jakob. History does not tell us much about him. He was not a noble. He did not lead armies. He did not write books. But church records note that the bell rang every day of the plague year. When Jakob fell ill, another man took his place. When that man died, a woman climbed the tower stairs. When she grew too weak, two apprentices rang the bell together. The bell was never silent. It became a promise. Not that everything would be fine, but that time was still moving forward. Chapter 4: Small Acts. The Middle Ages were not gentle. There was no cure, no clear explanation, no certainty. And yet, the city adapted. People marked doors with chalk. They left food on windowsills. They learned which streets to avoid and which ones needed help. A baker continued to bake even when fewer people came. A teacher kept lessons going for the children who remained. A bell rang. These were not heroic gestures. They were human ones. Chapter 5: The Turning. Eventually, as it always does, the sickness loosened its grip. Not all at once, not cleanly, but slowly. The carts came less often. The streets filled again. The bell rang to fuller squares. People emerged thinner, quieter, older, but they emerged. The city did not celebrate, it resumed. Chapter 6: What Remained. When historians look back at the plague years, they count numbers, they calculate percentages, they chart loss. But the people who lived through it remembered something else. They remember who stayed. They remember who rang the bell. They remembered that even when everything else failed, some things endured. Not because they were strong, but because people kept choosing them. The triumph of the human spirit is rarely loud. Most of the time, it sounds like routine, like footsteps on stairs, like bread being baked, like a bell ringing when no one is sure who is listening. Thank you for listening to AI Slop. If this episode helped you rest, do chores, focus, or simply sit with a quiet story of endurance, then it did its job. Until next time, keep going.